Oh, I think I pulled it off. So again, I want to congratulate all of you and thank you for putting this on and for inviting us to come. So I also was delighted to leave the office because it's National Science Foundation takes its job very seriously, and right now in Washington, D.C., people are kind of thinking about how we can get more people in the country to do what you're doing, and there's a lot of emphasis on what are called grand challenges, something you probably all are familiar with. And so I was looking on the web for the energy grand challenges, kind of the way there are in biology and engineering and so on. And what I found was, first of all, a couple of competitions, and then I found a number of references to grand challenges, but not a one place where I think it's all together. So what you're doing is pulling it together. I think we've been through all that. So I did see that OSTP and the Department of Energy have recognized a number of challenges, and I'm sure some of you are thinking about working there or applying for research grants from those organizations, and not from OSTP, but of course, but from the office, from the Department of Energy. So why do we and IGERT think about grand challenges? You know, IGERT is a program that is unusual in that it welcomes ideas that are emergent. So they are not even sometimes ideas that are commonly being worked on. And it is one of the unusual organizations in the National Science Foundation, I would say in the government or in the research world, that is really welcoming in that way. So grand challenges are a way for us to think about what we're funding and putting things kind of in boxes, things that are very important, that are sometimes happening and sometimes just emerging. I hope that makes sense. So grand challenges are inherently interdisciplinary, and we think complex in the sense that they're not just science, they're not just engineering, they're politics, they involve government, policy, human behavior, all those kind of nasty things. You know, the world, those jokes, the world would be great were it not for people messing it up. So plans to tackle grand challenges should include systematic training for future scientists and engineers to take on these challenges, and strategic support for interdisciplinary research, and a cultivation of innovation. So many grand challenges exist for clean energy. We just are going to hear about a lot of those in the next day, and you all are familiar with those. And a consistent theme that we find is that grand challenges are not only about the research, but about training people to really be prepared to address them. And we think IGERT, and case in point, this IGERT, is really about that. So what is NSF doing to promote interdisciplinary research and training? Well, NSF has a long history of supporting interdisciplinary research. This includes proposals that are submitted to various directorates that have interdisciplinary components. 118 of 342 NSF solicitations included interdisciplinary research. And in the last year, I'm sure some of you have heard of this already, a new program has been started called Creative, that the new director of NSF has, one of the first things he did was to start this program, Creative Research Awards for Transformative Interdisciplinary Ventures. And I was just looking at my email as I was waiting for the meeting to begin, and I saw that we're starting to get proposals in the area of creative. Basically, what will happen is a PI will go to 2 program officers from different directorates and begin to start a conversation, and in that way begin to formulate a research proposal. It's in the very pilot stages. It's in the creative stage. So for those of you who are interested, I would suggest talking with a program officer at NSF and beginning the conversations. But what about interdisciplinary graduate training for grand challenges? And we believe that IGERT is really a model that is very close to what is needed. Now, of course, things can always be improved, and we recognize that. But we think that IGERT does go very far in exposing graduate students to the complex ideas that are needed to solve problems in our society. And just as an aside, I always find it fascinating that when the National Science Foundation was created, well, Roosevelt was the president, Franklin Roosevelt. It was at the end of the war. And he said to this guy, Vannevar Bush, begin to think of a foundation that will take the scientific resources that were devoted to war and direct them now to solving our human, societal, health, education, welfare issues. And at the same time, as the National Science Foundation was created, they created the Graduate Research Fellowships, which are fellowships that we also work on at NSF, but that they focused on training of young graduate students to lead us in the future. So IGERT awards go to institutions that develop innovative, interdisciplinary doctoral training in the STEM fields. Now, the purpose of IGERT, as I just said, has been developed to, I think this meeting the grand challenges is an idea that we are using now to conceptualize IGERT. But when it was begun, it was really, I think, more to bring together, make the opportunity for students to have interdisciplinary training. Now, I think if we ask all the IGERT students here, they would be getting their PhDs in individual disciplines, right? And that's how it is at all IGERTs, which is a reflection of what the universities are still like. So students are grounded in their disciplinary field, and then they are working on interdisciplinary themes that are drawing them in, and they're getting the expertise in other fields as well as the technical, professional, and personal skills. So in addition to that, in the last year, we added a new component to IGERT, which focuses more on innovation. And we felt we should do that because partly of the focus in Washington now and the government of trying to really build a new economy and solve some of the problems for the future. And the innovation theme seemed like something that many of our IGERTs are already doing, but that we wanted to add that to our program. So just very quickly, since 1998, we have funded a lot of IGERTs, 278. The competition every year is really steep, and this year we will fund 18 new awards and about 11% success rate, which is pretty awful. This is the support level. I don't think I will bother with telling you about that, and these are the features of IGERT. I think most important is that students in IGERT, and this I think is pretty much universal, work on problems. They don't do individual research by themselves that much. In fact, we think of IGERTs as being successful if the students work in teams, if they have an opportunity to do something like you've done today with this meeting, if they are working with faculty across the university, and if they are actually stretching themselves to think about things that they would use when they go out and work. And so one of my colleagues asked me to do this, and I'll just break for a minute and do it and ask you, of of the graduate students who are here, how many of you, when you first came, thought you would end up in academic positions? And how many of you now think that you will end up in non-academic positions or choose to end in non-academic? Yeah, I think it's interesting because IGERT is really, one of its goals is not to say academic positions are bad, but to recognize that for most graduate students, academic positions are, you know, a 1 in 3 shot. Most likely, even if that's what you wish you could do, you will not immediately go into an academic position. You might very well end up in a research position, a policy position, somewhere else. And so what IGERT tries to do is make sure that you have the skills so that you can go into a variety of positions and that you have the training to feel comfortable at that. So we have lots of there's a program called AAAS Policy Fellows who are graduate PhDs who come to Washington wanting the policy experience, having not had that while they went through their PhD program. So I think you all will be far ahead in having this broader education. So one of my colleagues did this as kind of a, looking at the projects and doing a scan, seeing what are the areas that IGERT projects are in right now. So, and you can see energy there in the middle. And energy is not as big as engineering or biology or chemistry, but it's quite large, and particularly some of them are so small, you'll see there's only a couple of hits on those areas. So every IGERT, when we categorize it, we can't put it into one box only. We have to put it into maybe one main theme and then a number of other themes. And this was kind of a scan to see what's going on. So now looking at the energy projects that IGERT funds, and we are small compared to all the other things that are going on, but we think we have some really amazing projects. So if you can think that the energy, and we do have energy-focused projects that primarily like this project, but then there are other areas that are related to that. And so in the nano area, we might have a project that's looking at energy issues. In the behavioral, complex systems, we might. And certainly in sustainability, we have lots of projects that relate to energy issues. Over here, you can see the cumulative IGERT awards by research areas, and that thick light line, if you can see that, that's the growth in energy and sustainability projects. So that very dark one that's really steep, that's nano. That's, I guess, why we're in this beautiful building. Lots of things were funded and discovered. But it's encouraging, I think, to see that the energy area has been going up. And in the energy area, we really have quite an amazing array of projects. So last year, we funded 2 projects on wind energy. One that's in the heart of the country in Iowa, another one that's at University of Massachusetts that's offshore. A project that just ended was at the University of Rhode Island, where they did a lot of research on trying to figure out where to put the offshore wind farms. We have over here, this picture over here, I like this. This is the UT Austin, I think they're here, right? So that's, as I understand it, which is not very deeply, this is an ink that is a low-cost, nano-based way of capturing the solar energy. And so, and up here from the University of Washington, I don't know if they're here, but this is a project where they have developed something called a pyrolysis blanket, and this is partly for the debris in the forests and putting that blanket over it and then creating a new kind of an energy source rather than having it all just burn down. There's a program at NSF called ICORE, Innovation Core. I don't know if you all have heard of it, but it's a prize of $50,000, and people submit ideas like the pyrolysis blanket, and there's a competition. It's partly funded by private foundations, and they won one of those earlier in the year, one of those ICORE awards. So there's a wide range of projects, including biofuels, again from Rutgers, and also there's this, we've been looking at, and maybe it won't hold up, but we've been looking at sort of the way the IGERT is able to support the basic science, the translational research, and the applications in the lifetime of the IGERT program. So that's pretty exciting for us, and I think for PIs and the students. This is another IGERT, an earlier one in Texas Tech. And over here, University of Delaware, I'm not sure they're here, but they were looking at solar, hydrogen, trying to, I guess I forgot exactly, the hydrogen storage, that's right. But trying to address the question of solar energy. So as in this, one more thing I wanted to mention. So NSF also had this program called the Science Masters Program, which is like the professional science masters. And there were a number of energy projects in that group as well. So finally, the last thing I wanted to say was that these are all projects that are energy related that are currently underway with IGERT. And with that, I'll close, and I want to thank you again.